Look into my eyes. Please don't look away. Share with me this moment of truth, a moment of togetherness in such lonely times. We are all here because we care and understand that something needs to happen soon. 4 days ago, I had a birthday. Just as much as I could not have imagined a massacre happening a few days after my birthday last year, I could not believe the hostages are not back with us 1 year after. It's been a difficult year for me and for all of us. On October 7th, my grandparents, Oded and Yocheved Lifshitz, were kidnapped from their home in Kibbutz Nir Oz, a small community of just 400 people, where 1 in 4 was either kidnapped or brutally murdered that day. My grandmother, Yocheved, was taken on the back of a motorbike, 1 terrorist at the front, 1 at the back behind her. Her eyes were fixed towards Gaza, as her home burned in flames behind her. She didn't see the flames as they consumed everything she had built. The last thing she saw was her husband, my grandfather Oded, collapsing from a gunshot wound, trying to stop the bleeding with a towel. She told us he had died, and she shared that heartbreaking news with us in the hospital when she miraculously came back from captivity. But that was not the end of the story. Another hostage from Nir Oz, who was released after about 50 days, told us that my grandfather was, in fact, alive. He survived the 7th. She was with him while she was in captivity. He is wounded, yes, but he is still alive. He doesn't know his wife has been released. He is worried about her, and she for him. But both of them alive and separated by an unimaginable distance. Alive. That word takes on a new meaning when so many lives have been lost. Do you feel alive right here in this moment? No child in the world should ever fear he might be kidnapped. No woman in the world should be scared to be taken away from her home to a foreign land and be raped. No man in the world should fear he'll be taken into captivity in a tunnel, and fear he will never see daylight again. No one, nowhere, from that moment on. Every time I speak about October 7th, I ask myself, what do I really want to say to you? You who choose to be here, to listen, to be present, and to support us. What can I say that will help us bring every hostage home and help us grow, learn, and heal from what happened? I truly believe that good things happen when we come together, when we bring love, light, and gratitude into the room. Whether you believe God, the universe, or any other force that connects all of us, it's allowing us to make a choice. A choice that is one of the hardest challenges for people who were so severely hurt. Will we choose anger, war, hate, and pain? Or will we choose love, peace, and kindness? Are we brave enough to choose light despite the circumstances? Will we find the courage to stand together and be there for each other, even when there are different opinions? It just might be one of our greatest lessons after such dark times, but there is still hope. And you, the Jewish communities around the world, demonstrate the unity of our people in the most beautiful way. You have been an unimaginable source of support the past year. I want to briefly take you back to October 7th through my family's eyes. It began with rockets, unfortunately nothing unusual at first. My grandparents' bedroom also served as their shelter, so they're simply used to it. But soon something felt off. In the last conversation with us before he was kidnapped, Oded, my grandfather, said that he thinks that he hears Arabic right outside the door. From that moment, we lost all contact with both of my grandparents. For weeks, they were considered missing, a title that was given to those who there was no evidence about what happened to them. Kibbutz Niroz was evacuated to a hotel, and people whispered about who had been found, who had been killed, but no one seen my grandparents. They were simply missing. Then, one day, we read in Al Jazeera, an Arabic newspaper, that Hamas wants to release Yocheved Lifshitz and Nurit Cooper. 3 days of uncertainty followed until we got the final news, 3 hours before she arrived, that my grandmother was in fact coming home. Most of the family was in Eilat, so the army sent a helicopter to bring them to Tel Aviv. I got to the hospital before she arrived. She was frail, in a wheelchair, without her glasses. There was a very powerful moment when she looked across the room at me, squinting to recognize me. She kept her eyes on me until she asked, "Name?" And I said, "Maayan." She began to cry and said I came to her in her dreams all the time. That was the moment that reality hit. When the rest of the family arrived, she shared the story of her abduction with us. How she saw my grandfather collapse from a gunshot wound, how she believed he had died, and how she was taken underground, walking miles in underground tunnels into a small dark room where she was held with a few others. Unfortunately, some of them had recently returned back to Israel, this time not alive. When she was told she would be released, it was just as much a surprise to her as it was to us. Even though today is a difficult day, and some of us have lost trust or hope, I have not lost trust in you. And you are the ones that give me hope. You. You that cared enough to help my brother come back to Israel on October 7th because he was traveling in Australia and there were no flights available. You who sent supplies, food, money for so many different causes throughout the year. You whom I've been personally met in Israel for months, group after group, hundreds of them. People who come to simply show how much they care. You host me with an open heart and an open hand while I'm here in the US, helping me do the one thing God told me I need to do when I speak to you. Bring them hope so that we will have a better world to bring them home to. I truly believe that better days are ahead, and we are all part of making this happen. The world's Jewish communities have been an incredible source of strength for us this past year, and they deserve our deepest thanks. We must continue to support one another. We must remember that the hostages still waiting to come back home are not just numbers. They are parents, grandparents, children, siblings, and friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. There is so much love in this room. Simply look around you to the right and to the left. This is us. This is who we are, how we come together. And if you really listen carefully and closely, and maybe even close your eyes, you just might be able to hear them. They can hear us. They're coming home. There is so much love in my heart for you. I thank you and I love you.